Hi, my name is Theo. I go to Gun High School and I'm going to be a sophomore this year. So, my project is a MIDI controller. So, a MIDI controller is a device you can use for music production, and it usually triggers sounds or controls in a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. So, I chose this because I like music and making it, and I thought it would be cool to make a project that could perfectly integrate with that. So here's a demonstration of my project. There you can see it, and let me share my computer sound. So whenever I pressed one of these buttons, it should trigger a sound. And then if I turn a knob, for example, it'll change a parameter, which will ultimately change the sound of an instrument. So for example, this sounds different from this. And these two sliders here just control the volume of each track. So, I can split my project up into multiple milestones as I progress through it. So, my first milestone was just building the basic circuit which could send a signal to the computer. This was fairly simple because I just had to upload some code and then build a circuit diagram. But then the next milestone was fairly difficult because I had to integrate multiple software elements into my project. I needed multiple pieces of software to make the controller actually trigger sounds in this digital audio workstation. So the first one being a serial to MIDI converter, which converted the Arduino's output into a MIDI signal. The next piece of software was a MIDI virtual port, which would which would send the signal to the DAW, so this string of software could actually control the DAW. Now, my last milestone of this project was probably the hardest. So, this was the modification step. My first modification you can see here is just a simple wooden box. It was fairly straightforward to make. All I had to do was saw and cut and sand a few pieces of wood. However, the next modification was fairly difficult. I had to create an audio spectrum analyzer, which is made using an external microphone unit and an OLED screen. So you can see whenever I press this button, it should respond with the wave if I turn up the volume. And so this was pretty difficult to integrate into my project, especially because of the coding aspect. I didn't expect it to be this hard because I'd seen a few people do it online with fair ease. However, when I tried to integrate it, it was conflicting with my MIDI controller code and it was very difficult to use. So, after tweaking a few of the parameters in the code, I found out it wasn't actually that hard. I just had to make it so it ignored the signal of the microphone, and they would function as two separate units running off the same code. So you can see an example of the spectrum analyzer with music. And yeah, so overall, my challenges in this project were mostly the code aspect of the whole thing, mainly being integrating the spectrum analyzer, which I ultimately overcame. I still haven't completely finished this project because it's not as responsive and smooth as I would like it to be. However, I'm still fairly satisfied with it. I learned through this process that I actually enjoy making circuits and connecting hardware much more than I like coding. So in the future, I'm looking forward to more hardware projects. So, any questions?
I have a question. Have you used this project yet to actually try and make any music or not yet?
I haven't really tried to use it to make any music yet because it's not completely responsive. So I might want to work on the code a little bit more before I can use it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also have a question. So are you able to set it to any instrument in your well, I guess you're using Ableton. So are you able to set it to any instrument with um corresponding to any key?
Yeah, pretty much I can map it. I can map the buttons by tweaking the code a little bit to any note I want. So, for example, if I can reshare my screen. There, now I have it mapped to a grand piano, so
Oh wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I don't really have a question, but I did want to say that the spectrum analyzer on the box was such a nice touch and it looks really, really cool. I thought that was super impressive. Great work.